Hi friends, welcome to WizBusters. I'm Emma and today I'm going to show you how to use the index and match functions together instead of using VLOOKUP. In this video, firstly I'll explain the index function, secondly the match function, then I'll put both index and match together, then I'll show you an example of an easy way of using the index and match combination now that you understand how to use match within the index function. Then I'll explain why we should use index and match compared to VLOOKUP, and finally point out errors to avoid when using this combination. Before we begin, to stay updated with new videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to get notified of the latest videos out. So here in Table 1, we have the morning and afternoon arrival times for various airlines. To the right, there is Table 2, which lists 3 airlines. The objective is to get the afternoon arrival times for the list of airlines in Table 2. From Table 1, we can see that Air Canada, we should get 3:30. Let's just highlight that. Emirates should be 4:45. Air France should be 2:35. To get the values from the table, we will use 2 functions. 1, the index function, and 2, the match function. Now, the index function will retrieve a value from the table or list based on the location of the rows and column. In other words, if you want to get a value from a table, you can use the index function, but you need to know the location of the value in terms of the row number and column number. To use the index function, we need to tell Google Sheets or Excel 3 things. 1, where we want to search, that is, the range of cells of the table. 2, the row number in the range of cells in the table or list. And 3, the column number in the range of cells in the table or list. These are the 3 parameters or arguments of the index function. In Google Sheets, you will see equal index, reference, row, column, while in Excel, you'll see equal index, reference, row num, column num. For more details about the index function, such as optional values, tips, and tricks, check out my video on this. See the link in the description below. So let's try using the index function to get the value from this table. Let's type in equal index. Recall there are 3 parameters. The first parameter is asking, where do we want to search? We want to retrieve our value from this range. So let's select the range of cell from B3 to D10. It is best practice to make this an absolute reference to avoid errors when autofilling. The second parameter is asking, what is the row number of the value? We can see that Air Canada is in the second row of the range selected, so we type in 2 as the second parameter. The third parameter is column. This is asking what is the column number for the value that we want to locate. The PM arrival time is in the third column of the range which we selected, so we type in 3. Notice we got 3:30, and this matches with what we should get from the table. Before moving to the next 2 airlines, let's just note down what we wrote for our parameters for the index function. Parameter 1 was the range B3 to D10. Parameter 2 was the row number for Air Canada, which is 2, and parameter 3 was the column number for PM, which is 3. Observe in this table that our parameters 2 and 3 can change as they represent the position of a value for a specific airline. Now, we don't want to do this manually. We want to tell Google Sheets or Excel to give this to us instead. And this is where the match function comes to our rescue. Why? Because the match function can be used to retrieve a number that represents the position of the values, such as the row numbers and column numbers, which are inputs as parameter 2 and 3. And to use the match function, we need to tell Google Sheets or Excel 3 things. 1, what we want to search for or look up. 2, where we want to search for it in the form of a one-dimensional array. That is the range of cells, which is either 1 row or 1 column. And 3, whether it is an exact match, next smallest, or next largest. In Google Sheets, you will see equal match, search key, range, search type, while in Excel, you will see equal match, lookup value, lookup array, match type. So in table 3, we want to get the row numbers for the 3 airlines: Air Canada, Emirates, and Air France. So we type in equal match. Recall the first parameter is asking what do we want to search for? We want to search for the value for Air Canada. We click this cell to reference the value. The second parameter is asking where do we want to search for this? We want to get the position from this table. But recall we need to select a one-dimensional range, so we select the first column, B3 to D10. The third parameter is asking, do we want an exact match? Yes, we want an exact match. So we type in 0. Notice we got 2 as our result. Let's autofill this. We've got 5 for Emirates and 7 for Air France. So this shows that we can use the match function to get the row numbers of these airlines, just like in parameter 2, which we did manually. What about the column number? Can we use the match function to get the position of the PM column as column number 3? Well, let's try it out in table 4 here. If we type in equal match, our first parameter is asking what do we want to search for or look up? We want to search for this value PM. So we click the cell to reference this value. The second parameter is asking where do we want to search for this? Well, we want to search for it in this table, but recall we need to select a one-dimensional range. So we select the first row, which has the names of the column headers. We make this an absolute reference. The third parameter is asking, do we want an exact match? And the answer is yes, we do. So we type in 0 for an exact match. Press enter. Notice we got the value 3, which is the value of our third parameter. This shows that the match function can be used to retrieve the values for parameters 2 and 3. So if we substitute the numbers in parameter 2 here for the match function that we got for the rows and the number in parameter 3 for the match function for the column, then we don't have to do anything manually. So let's do that. Let's copy the match function for the rows and replace it in parameter 2. So let's copy this and let's paste it into the second parameter. Let's just press enter. So let's copy the match function, copy, and replace it in parameter 3. Before we drag the formula down to apply it to other rows, in our third parameter, we should lock the row G3 with a $sign to ensure that this does not move when we drag the formula down, so it continues to stay at PM. The good thing about using the index match is that we can also drag this formula across and apply it to another column. Suppose if we typed in AM here, and let's say we wanted to get the AM arrival time, and we wanted to drag the formula across. So to avoid errors for autofilling, we need to lock the column. The column is F, so we lock the column F by putting a $sign in front. Now we can drag the formula down and across. 6:45 is the AM arrival time for Air Canada, 10 o'clock is for Emirates, and 5 for Air France. Now that you know how to use the index match combination, I want to show you a way that can really simplify this because of the flexibility of this combination. Number 1 is that for the first parameter in the index function, you do not need to reference the entire table. You can reference the one-dimensional range which has the values which you want to retrieve, such as one column. In this case, you will also not need to put the column number as there is only one column in the reference. Let me show you what I mean in example 2. To get the afternoon arrival time for Air Canada, we type in equal index, and here we can reference the one-dimensional range which has the values which you want to retrieve, which is column E4 to E10. The second parameter for the match function is the range, D4 to D10. We make that an absolute reference. Our third parameter is 0 as it is an exact match that we want. Since we have chosen one column for our values, we can omit the third parameter, the column number, as there is only one column. This parameter is optional, so we close our function. Notice we get 330. Let's autofill. We get 445 and 235 for Emirates and France respectively. Note though, in example 1, if you wanted to have the flexibility to autofill your formula down and across like we did here, Our first parameter in the index function in example 1 was the entire table. The next thing I wanted to talk about is why would we prefer to use index match instead of VLOOKUP? Firstly, if columns are added within the range of the table, the VLOOKUP formula would not return the correct answer because the column row will have changed. For example, in example 3 here, the table to the right has the afternoon arrival times found by using the index match function in one column and the VLOOKUP function in the next column. Notice we referenced one-dimensional columns for the first parameter in the index match function. Now suppose we add a column between D and E. Let's add a column. Look what happened to VLOOKUP. Notice that the index match combination continued to retrieve the correct values, but the VLOOKUP function returned nothing because it is referring to column 2, which is now a blank column. If we click there, notice it's referring to column 2, but if I click here, it continues to refer to these 2 columns. The index match combination offers us a benefit to retrieve values to the left of the lookup value. In example 4, we have 2 columns to the left of the airline, type and flight number. And in our table on the right, we want to get the flight number for the specified airlines. So if we type in equal index, the first parameter is where do we want to search for the value, and our values are in column C. So we choose C4 to C10. We want the flight number. The second parameter is the row number, and we can use the match function here. What do we want to match? We want to match Air Canada. So we reference the cell. The second parameter in the match function is where do we want to find this match, D4 to D10. We want an exact match, so we type in 0, we close the parenthesis. Notice we retrieve AC0192 for Air Canada, which matches with the table. The rest of the numbers match with what we get. The final part I wanted to touch on are some errors to avoid when using index match combination. The first is that the number of rows in the lookup range and the reference range should be the same. In example 4, the ranges are the same length, C4 to D10, D4 to D10. If any of these are less than the other, we will get an error. For example, if we change the range from C4 to C8 and drag this down, we got #num, which says function index parameter 2, value 6 is out of range because Air France is in row 6, but the value reference range has only 5 rows. Let's undo this, Control Z. If we change the range to D4 to D8, press enter and drag this down, we get an error #NA. There's a comment here which says did not find value Air France in match evaluation. Because if we click in here, Air France is not part of that range. Let's undo this. Another error to avoid is not making your range an absolute reference. When you don't do this and autofill your formulas, the range moves as well. So to ensure you fix your table, you can make these absolute references and either lock the columns or lock the rows, depending on how you want to autofill your table. Thank you again for watching and hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to get more videos like this and hit the bell to get notifications of the latest videos out. See you in the next video.